Welcome to Dentistry Going Wild, the official podcast for mobile and teledentistry. And you have your two amazing guest hosts here, Sonya Dunbar, aka the Geriatric Tooth Fairy, and
the lovely. I guess I can't say that because I'm saying it myself.
You are lovely.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's lovely. Very nice of you.
I'm gonna have to run with it, but the lovely Melissa Turner, aka the Tooth Girl.
The Tooth Girl is in the house. Now, Melissa,
what?
We have people waiting to be a guest on our show, but Melissa has pushed. Look at my hands, pushed everyone back to get this man that's here today, and he is not dental. So you guys are in store for some good stuff. Now, I'm going to give Melissa the pleasure to introduce because this is her area. She is I hate to say nerd, but can I say nerd?
I own it. You know what?
She is like the teledentistry nerd.
No, so we are so excited to have Mike on today. Now, Mike was supposed to come on a couple months ago, but that was when I'm not going to say that word, but something hit the fan here in the Pacific Northwest. And it was right when COVID happened and then also the wildfires. And it was just this crazy mix of things. So we had to postpone. I was so sad. But so today we're bringing you Mike. He's a nationally recognized dental software and EHR expert. He's also the the founder of Dental Software Advisor. And he's also has a column for Dental Product Report. So Mike, thank you for being here. How are you?
Hey, Mike.
Oh, great, guys. Thanks for inviting me on the show. I hope we have a great time today.
I'm pretty sure that we're bound to. That's not even love it. So how are you? How was 2020 for you and the wildfires and all the smoke here in the Pacific Northwest? Were you okay with that?
It was, well, as you know, Melissa, because you're in the Northwest as well. It's, I never thought. I grew up in Chicago, moved to Seattle about 20 years ago. And I never realized how I'd be living here. We actually live up in the mountains, and between the storms and the wildfires and everything that happens, it's a beautiful place, but there certainly are a lot of natural disasters up here, as you know. So we made it through that, and and I'm actually looking forward to a really great 2021.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's the question of the decade here. You have so much experience with helping practice owners and clinicians implement telemedicine for the last decade. I think you've been doing it. I mean, is that right? A decade now?
Right. It was pretty much like for the late 90s to about 2010, 2011 before I actually got into the dental world. So for those 12 years or so, I was working with medical software, medical technology, hospitals, groups, practices. Correct.
Mm-hmm. So what's your take on teledentistry right now, post-COVID? As it stands for the dental industry?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm glad you brought up the concept of telemedicine, right? Because it's all part of telehealth, right? So I like to actually get the idea that we have this thing called telehealth, right? And then we have physicians, virtual physicians that use it, virtual dentists. So in terms of that idea, I'd really like to bring teledentistry, not as this silo, right? But into this fold of, let's call it virtual visits and virtual technology. Okay, so what I'm really excited about, just you and I have talked, I really got into it probably about April. As you know, what I do, I help groups, practices, DSOs, look for software, purchase software, negotiate for it, implement it. And about April, a lot of my clients started turning to me saying, okay, Mike, something's different here. Right? We can't work. We have to have just emergency visits. What do we do? Oh, by the way, I heard of this thing people are doing called teledentistry. They're using it. They're able to do something with it. So they said, Mike, you're the techie. You're the geek, right? Like you are, Melissa, right? You're the IT guy, right?
I don't know. I was a nerd. You're the geek.
Mike, we work with you. You've helped us get software and all our IT for years. Guess what? now find out what this teledentistry stuff is, right? So that kind of put me on the journey this spring towards really becoming, I guess, a self-proclaimed expert somewhat on teledentistry.
Mhm. And I really like, the first thing that people ask Sonya and I when we talk about teledentistry is, how is it possible to do dentistry virtually? But if we start to refer to it as telemedicine or telehealth in the dental practice, then I feel like that makes so much more sense to the practice. Like they can understand that, because as a dentist, we're sitting here thinking like, okay, how can I do an MOD on 30 over Zoom, right? They don't get that. But when you say, no, you're actually doing telehealth or telemedicine, I think that's
well, it's real interesting. It's real interesting, guys. So ever since I got involved with medical software, medical EHRs many years ago, I've been really interested in then segueing into dentistry. I really wanted to bring the two together, right? Because at the end of the day, dentistry is part of healthcare, right? People come into physicians' offices with oral problems, and people come into dental offices and they might have high blood pressure, right? So neither the twain shall meet, right? So what's really interesting is, as I've gone on this teledentistry journey the last few months, I met a lot of interesting people. I've met groups where actually a physician, partnerships, where a physician that sees oral health problems in their practice can actually get a virtual dentist. And then dentists who see medical type problems and don't know how to deal with it can hook into virtual physicians. So you start seeing that, not because we have this cloud-based stuff, this cloud-based technology where you can actually collaborate together. Now we're starting to see the availability for something I've been wanting many years in technology, is for the patient to be the patient and then have cases surrounding the patient, because a patient might have a physician, might have a dentist, might have a psychologist, right? It's all about healthcare for the patient. And now we can collaborate virtually in the cloud. So with the medical part, that's what I'm excited about. Telehealth is really starting to bring together the two disciplines, which I've been waiting for years.
And you've been waiting for years. Dentistry had been waiting for years. Dentists have been screaming for years how important it is to recognize the mouth as connected to the whole body. So many people disconnect the mouth from the body, but we know as dental professionals, if your mouth is not healthy, your whole body isn't healthy. So finally, we have a system that acknowledges that we need to recognize that and join the two. But a question that I have for you, Mike, is where do you see telehealth and teledentistry in 5 years from now? What is the future of that? Because so many people right now, I've even heard some people saying that this is just a niche. It's just important right now because of COVID,
right.
But we know that this telehealth has been around for years. I work in the nursing home population. A lot of physicians can't make it out to the nursing homes, and they do telehealth. So they've been doing it for years. So what can make, how do you see this not being just a niche or a niche for dentistry?
I'm really glad you asked that question, because the cliche, the train has left the station. Truly, with teledentistry.
Wait a minute, I don't know that. I don't know that.
Oh, you don't? Well, the train.
I'm gonna let you run past that like I know. On a podcast I play it off, but I can't do that right now. I don't know what it means. So we have to scale down, give me that definition, and then go into it.
Okay, cool. So this will be an educational experience. Okay. So the train has left the station really means that the cat's out of the bag. Things have happened. Things are not going to stop. Things are going to go forward. The train has left the station. When I talk about it, means that teledentistry wasn't just this blip of, oh, we can do virtual visits while we have COVID. And then once we get back to normal, cool, we'll get back to normal life. No. With teledentistry, if you really look at teledentistry, it's not just about a Zoom call. It's not just about seeing somebody over the computer, looking at their mouth and saying you should do this. There's a lot more behind it, and that's the key. Teledentistry will be an important workflow with visits. When you think about it, as a society, right? Don't we want to do more things virtually if we can? We want to be able to register wouldn't it be great if before we actually go to the dental office, we can actually give them all our problems, what they should be thinking about before we actually enter into that office. From the dentist side, if they know more about us, more about our needs, they're going to waste less time in the chair, right? If we come in prepared, right? So there's front-end workflows that will be virtual in the future, now and in the future. And then how about the back end? How about follow-up visits, right? It's not just about a little simple virtual visit. It's about part of the workflow. The other thing that people don't talk about is what we just talked about earlier, which is the collaboration of different providers talking to each other, right? So we have the ability now, if somebody has a problem, to bring in an oral surgeon or their person's hygienist or their endodontist or their general practitioner or their cardiologist. We can manage cases together. That is teledentistry or telehealth, right? We can do that. And the other thing people really don't talk about is, I'll use a geek term, but we use it a lot in telehealth and teledentistry, called asynchronous, right? What does that mean? That means that it's not real time. It's not a video real time, but I'm a patient. So I send my images to the database of the dentist, right? That person looks at it, then they share that behind the scenes. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. All these things we talk about with teledentistry and telehealth, these are workflows that will be really important. I was talking to a DSO the other day that actually is incorporating workflows where if somebody calls their DSO at 7:00 at night, they can basically hook somebody up by pushing a button to a virtual dentist, right? How great is that from a customer service standpoint?
Amazing.
Why would they stop doing that when COVID's over? Of course not. So to answer your question, and my cliche about the trains left the station, it will continue and will only grow in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm. And especially the medical dental integration is so huge right now, especially since the CDC announced in October that it's developing a national framework for medical dental integration. And I believe it's starting in, I forget what state it's starting in. I think Midwest somewhere. 5 states here: Colorado, Connecticut, North Dakota, South Carolina, and Virginia. So that's going to help propel this in the future. And also the American Mobile and Teledentistry Alliance, it's beginning some initiatives to take these steps as well, medical dental integration. A lot of the health departments are looking for this kind of thing, like you were saying, and they're ready to bring a dentist on board just like that. They're ready. So we're there.
So actually, here's the deal. That technology has been around for 15 years, believe it or not. When I started in medicine, right now, if you're a medical practice, medical group, a hospital, no matter what kind of system you have the ability to talk to other systems. They have that technology. Dentistry has not been on board. The vendors have not developed it. I've been pushing them for years. You're starting to see the idea of a medical record or a dental record or called a health record, right? To be able to be shared between systems. We've had that technology for a number of years. It's just that dental software vendors have not embraced it. One of my goals in life for the last 7 years has been to push vendors to adopt the technology that we have in medicine for years. It goes to your point. So now we have the ability to share a patient's record between a dental office, a medical office, a hospital.
Yes.
That's the key. So doing it is political, and doing it, there's 2 questions. One is, do you have the technology? Yes, we have it. The other side of the coin is, our practice is doing it, right? And that takes an effort. And that's some of the things I think you're talking about, Melissa, where some of the states are saying, look, we have to start doing this stuff. So we can do this. We have it here now.
That's good. That's good.
Now, do you recommend, Mike, knowing what you know about the technology behind, we're used to seeing the user interface, the friendly, Apple-looking interface. But knowing what you know about the technology behind the scenes, would you recommend a dentist go with a telehealth platform or a platform that's been created specifically for dentistry?
That's a really great question. I'm glad you asked it. The thing with telehealth platforms is they were made for telehealth for the medical world. And many times what they'll do is then they'll throw in some dental stuff, right? So a dentist can use it, right? A true teledentistry platform done by a teledentistry company that is specifically for workflows for dentists. It's how they work, right? So from my experience with software in general, right, you might want to stay in the industry you're in, okay? Because I would hate to see, I want to get to a point where we have telehealth companies that really embrace, they have dentists on board, they have cardiologists on board. So the content part, right, of the telehealth is by the specific industry that we're going towards, okay? But right now, as it stands, I really think it'd probably be best to look at a teledentistry focused company for dentistry. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. Now, and leading into that, saying that they should look for a teledentistry company that leads more toward dentistry. Let's get to the nuts and bolts of it. Dentists want to know about money.
Right.
So how can we can talk about all the benefits. We want to save lives, but at the end of the day, we want to eat too. So how can you speak to that? How can you speak to that money part, Mike?
When we talk about money, is it about acquiring the technology, or is it about how do you stay in business using teledentistry?
Okay, let's start on how you stay in business using teledentistry, and then talk about the inquiring part. So we need both of them, and you're the man with the plan.
Okay, good. Well, let's put it this way, right? The world is getting more competitive, right? Whether it's
it's not getting competitive, is it, Mike? It's not competitive. No, it's not.
And unfortunately, stay in business these days, right? We know whether it's medicine or dentistry, and people shop more and more and more, and people expect services, right? People demand better customer. Now we're seeing more software, patient engagement, social media, ways to communicate with your patient, right? Well, patients expect better customer service, right? What better customer service than telling your patient, right, that, hey, if your kid has an issue at 8 o'clock at night with their mouth and they have a lot of pain, you can push a button and you can get some virtual dentist online that can prescribe medication or talk to you, right, at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, as opposed to another practice that says, you know what, you'll have to call the front desk in the morning and see if we have time for you. Now think about it, right? When we're in a competitive world and a customer service oriented world, what teledentistry brings in to address your question, Sonya, about the money, is it brings in features and functionality that provide much better customer service. And then people will flock towards that customer service because they have choices of where to go, right? It's not like 20 years ago where generations of families went to this dentist or this physician, right? It's now more, we shop for everything, right? So I hope I can answer that question. The features and functionality you're seeing lead to people wanting to do business with that practice more than maybe another practice that doesn't have the technology.
So basically you're saying like Chick-fil-A. We know that they don't have the best chicken sandwich in the world, but why do I wait in that line when I can really go across the street to someplace else and get a chicken sandwich? So it's the customer service, it's the customer care, it's the thank you and the welcome and that extra step that Chick-fil-A makes. They even have mouthwash in their bathrooms. So it's the extra step that makes the difference.
You know what, Sonya? Thanks for bringing that up, because Chick-fil-A opened in Seattle about 6 or 7 years ago, and I had no idea. I didn't know anything about it, and I would drive by it for months, and there'd be lines around and there's a Kentucky Fried Chicken right down the road. I'm saying to myself,
exactly,
what the heck's going on here? So thank you for educating me with it.
You know, they say thank you, you're welcome. They hire nice people. They ask you, do you want jelly or with those nice chicken biscuits? And you know,
extra jelly, please.
Extra, and I just stopped eating chicken this year. So, but they have great salads. So, but so you answered the question. So it's based on the practice and knowing how to bill out in dentistry, knowing how to incorporate your team, how to save space where you can have an arm outside of the office, and having customer service is the number one. Because there are a lot of dentists. So the customer service is what makes the difference. So now answer the cost wise of acquiring this equipment, because we already have software. We already have x-ray software. We already have patient software. There's so many different softwares and different functions that we have in our practice. So talk about that end of it, Mike.
Yeah. You know, we could spend a whole podcast on the acquisition, but I'll tell you that for the last 20 years, a lot of my life has been some of the groups and practices helping them acquire the technology. What people don't do, it's funny because physicians, dentists, they're scientists, they're analytical people. When they look in your mouth, they don't just have you open your mouth and without looking go, oh, okay, here's what you have to do, right? But people approach software that way, right? They don't analytically vet vendors. They don't look at 5 or 6 or 7 vendors, compare them apples to apples, feature to feature, and sit back. And then they don't have targeted demonstrations that work for them. There's a lot of people just shoot from the hip when they get software. They see a salesperson, something looks pretty on the screen. They have a colleague in another part of the country that's used the software for 10 years, and they go, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And that's a recipe for failure. So we don't have time to go into it now, but a lot of my life and what I do with my clients is to take them through the process to analytically compare and contrast software technology, whether it's just basic practice management software or whether it's teledental software. It's the same idea. Okay. And again, we should have a podcast, something to go into the actual steps and processes. But to answer your question, people make the biggest mistakes when they purchase technology by just shooting from the hip and just getting what seems to be good, but not really getting into the weeds and looking at it closely. And they need to do that. As teledentistry gets more popular, I will tell you, every vendor in the world, they're going to jump on board. Everybody's going to have a video chat. But is that also, is it just about video chatting? Is it about collaboration? You need to really look closely at these vendors, right? Or you're going to really be taken advantage of.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah. And I know last week we had Dr. Nathan Suter on, and one of his projects that he's working on is called Healer. And it's a way, it's basically he saw a gap in the teledentistry workflow and said, hey, this product can now fit in that gap. So instead of just having Zoom, which is great for the communication aspect, but doesn't do anything for the provider workflow. It's like, okay, so you had this appointment with the patient, and what do you do next? Somehow you have to record that in the EHR. You have to, put that in the patient's chart and save it somewhere. And so as we move along, I'm sure we'll see some of these new innovations come out, and then it's a matter of wrapping it all together in one bundle.
Yeah, so what you're starting to see, this goes to actually, it's a good segue into what I like to talk about.
Yes.
Which is, when software starts out, it always starts out kind of segmented, right? Like you had dental software, right? And then you had secure email, right? And now secure email is part of the dental software, right? And you had patient education systems that were separate, right? From, you could sit in the chair and look at videos maybe. Now you see patient education when you push a button from your dental software, right? What we're seeing happen is truly a consolidation of applications, right? Nobody wants to buy 30 applications. Nobody wants to get nickel and dime. Oh, I have to spend X dollars for this. Everybody wants to just get a solution to something, right? And so to go back to the teledentistry, you're starting to see dental software companies looking very seriously at teledentistry applications, and that will be part of the workflow now. It's not like, oh, we go to teledentistry and do this, and then we go to our practice management system, then we go to our clinical system. It's going to be like, hey, we have software, and we want to do a virtual visit now. Let's push a button, right? That's where we're heading, and that's what's exciting. And by the way, the reason why cloud-based systems are so important is because I can speak as a geek, as a techie. Cloud allows you to more easily do those partnerships with applications. It's like apps on your phone, right? So the cloud solutions, when people talk about cloud, it's not just about having cloud-based IT, so you don't have to have your own server. That's a part of it. But the biggest thing is when you go to the cloud, now you can pick and choose from many, many applications that integrate seamlessly with each other. And that's the power of it. And that's, to answer your question, that's where we're going. It's kind of an all-in-one type solution.
Mm-hmm. And there's so many SAS platforms. There's so many different just technologies out there for dentistry. And it's like, oh, good Lord, how many do I need? So Mike, in your opinion, what if a practice owner wants to get started in this? What I hear you saying is that the best way is to really talk to somebody like you that has the expertise, that can look at your practice and say, this is your strength, this is what you need to focus on with this technology, with this teledentistry technology, versus just a one-stop shop.
Well, yeah, what I can say is my whole goal is to educate, right? It has been for 20 years. And the first step might be to actually go to dentalsoftwareadvisor.com, because I've written tons of articles on how to get software, how to contract, how to price it. For years, I've been doing that. So there's a lot of articles. Now, if anybody has any questions, I like for people to learn. If people can do it themselves, great. But they have to have somebody kind of lead them through the process. So somebody who goes to the website, if they have any questions, I'm happy to have somebody call me up, email me. I love to talk about this stuff. At some point, if they need some assistance or help or are doing it for them. So many times I've done so many seminars and workshops over the years trying to teach people how to do this. And many times they'll go, that's great. I've learned a lot, but I'm a dentist or I'm a practice manager. That's not what I do. Can you help? Right. So yes, I can help, but really I would say get educated. Give me a call, talk to me. I'm happy to I want people to do it right. Okay. Forgetting about the business side of everything. I really want the dental industry to do this right about software, because too many people in medical and dental have made too many mistakes by getting the wrong system. And if you get the wrong system to run your group practice or DSO, that's just a total recipe for disaster. So learn how to do it right.
That's amazing. I was just doing a webinar with the Hygiene Association in Texas, some of those hygienists in Texas, and some of those areas, along the borders there are a lot of areas that need dentistry. And I'm not talking about nursing homes or school. These are adults that just need dentistry. And if there's a shortage of dentists there, they can definitely, if they can get on board with this, definitely send teledentistry out and telehealth out. I mean, a lot of people out there are already seeing the doctors by telehealth. So why couldn't they just add the dental component? So we have a long way to go, but we don't mind charging forward with all the other troops that's charging, because the bigger the push, the more difference we make. What do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, and I just think the future is so exciting. I mean, we are right there to see this more fully implemented in both the teledental and mobile side of things. And I can't stress this enough. We are right there. Now that practice owners spent a whole year thinking outside of the traditional walls of their fixed dental practice,
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, what else can we do that,
Exactly.
Right? So we are right there. And Mike, I'm glad that you are, helping to pave the way in this as well with what you're doing in the magazines and with your business. So thank you so much for being here. If somebody wants to contact you, how can they reach out?
The best way is just go to the website, dentalsoftwareadvisor.com. My email is mikeu@dentalsoftwareadvisor.com. And, I just like to close, Melissa and Sonya, by what we're talking about, people using this stuff, right? Not just think it's COVID. I think the key is the education, really understanding that teledentistry is not just a video to talk to your dentist, right? That, as we talked about during this podcast, is much, much more. It's a sea change in how practices do workflows in business using technology. Once I think dental groups realize that, how important it is as part of their business, then you're going to really see things explode. But that's the education we all have to do, right, to the industries. Let them know what this is all about, really.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, thank you. Thank you for sharing how people can contact you. We'll have it available in the link below. And Mike he doesn't mind sharing information about teledentistry and mobile teledentistry and telehealth. So please reach out to him. And again, Mike, thank you for joining us. You want to close it up and thank our sponsors?
Sure, that would be a blast. So we would like to thank the American Mobile and Teledentistry Alliance for sponsoring this particular episode. If you want to get more involved in teledentistry, if you want to get more involved in telehealth, this is the place to go to do so. We've got this fantastic teledentistry committee that is launching so many initiatives in 2021 because it's needed. And so we're here, we're ready, we need the manpower, and it's a great way to get involved. That's right. So Mike, thank you again for being here. Sonya, it's been a blast. Please click like and share this, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
Thank you. See you later.
Thank you for listening to Dentistry Gone Wild, the official podcast for mobile and teledentistry. You can subscribe to our channel wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're enjoying the show, please leave us a review.